All right, I'm going to call this meeting to order. Good to see everybody this morning, smiling and laughing in spite of the cold and COVID.
Yeah.
We've got to keep our spirits high.
A cup of coffee.
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks for our guests, Terry and Bruce. Thanks for joining us. And so the first item is the approval of the December 4th meeting minutes. Everybody had a chance to go over them. Any issues?
Oh, I admit I have not looked at them, but I'm willing to just.
No issues.
No issues?
Me, not from me.
Okay.
Motion to approve.
Second?
Looked like Dave Morley raised his hand quickly.
Okay. All in favor, raise your hand. Okay. It's passed. All right. First item on the agenda is treasurer's report.
You want me?
Dave Morley.
You want me to share my screen? Oops, let me share my screen and I'll bring it up.
Okay, hold on. All right.
Okay, here is the, this is the end of the year, 12/31/21, the final treasurer's report for last year. We ended the year with $21,838.86. We received $2.50 in charitable VHS. And then we paid $150 for Orange Colored Sky for the learning tracks, paid Mike Kading, paid Curtis, paid Bert for the plaques for the dinner, paid Larry for some business cards and flyers. I filed the California Corporation, which we need to do every 2 years. And we received, if you're sitting down, $911.65 from Benevity. Thank you.
Yay!
Thank
Hey,
you
wow.
all of you Google employees. We need more.
That was a good thing.
That was a good thing.
Nice number.
So that's the treasurer's report, or that's the monthly report. I will now bring up the budget, which is here. And here is the end of the year. So these actuals are actual for 2021. This is still a draft budget, and I guess I would ask today that we approve this so it turns into more than just a draft budget, but it's the budget for 2022. I made one change from the December meeting, and that is I increased the Benevity because we got such a big deposit in December to more or less match what we got last year. I'm assuming that all of the Google employees are still going to stay involved, and we'll do that. And, you know, the Harmony Foundation is about the same. So bottom line for the draft budget, well, let me show. The bottom line for 2021, we actually lost about $2,551. And that's, I still believe that's not a bad thing because we're in a pandemic year and we didn't have a spring show. And we had a smaller cabaret that we don't normally have in the Valentine. So I look upon this as good news. We can get by with only losing $2,500. That's great. I'm proposing that the draft budget shows we lose another $2,000, which still isn't too bad because we're still in really unknown territory.
And there were some, Dave, as part of the draft budget, I was looking at this earlier and it looked like there were some expectations of a little bit more revenue in certain things, but a little bit more expense in certain things as well, which
Right.
gives us, yeah.
Right, that's correct.
Okay.
What are the stars in column L?
Those are changes I made since the last.
Okay.
You weren't there some notes at the bottom of this that had to do, because I noticed the performance thing. Oh, okay, from cabaret to program. So could you explain
I
that?
don't think that's accurate.
Okay,
I think that I forgot to remove that. That's probably from previous year.
okay.
And are we, okay, I see that you've got 0 for riser rental profit.
We don't have any risers.
Right. So, but we still need to track that for some reason.
No, we can leave that off.
Okay.
So
I mean,
the risers in Coverly are no longer there?
Correct.
they're at the dump.
Correct. Oh, for a year now.
Yeah.
Dave, I've got one other question that came up in a discussion I was having with Elliot last night. We're trying to figure out membership stuff, and BHS is just really difficult to understand. When you receive dues or a check or whatever you get from the society,
Right here.
do you also get an accounting that says this is who paid what?
That's a good question. No, I get a check, or it actually is deposited directly into the checking account. I have to search the site to find out who paid.
Okay.
And on the other report, I always show the names. On the monthly report, I show names.
Okay.
So when you say search the site, you don't mean the chapter report, or do you?
I have, they bury that information way down in. And it takes me quite a while to figure out where it is.
Yeah.
Okay, because
I
yeah,
think it is.
that's the problem I've had.
I think it is in the chapter report, but boy, it takes me quite a while to figure out where it is.
Yeah, okay. That's an issue we need to take up with them.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Dave.
So Dave, where is the coaching budget?
Down here.
There it is. Okay. So we're going to be reviewing a coaching plan today. So we want to make sure that's
There's
consistent.
$1,600 in coaching in the draft budget.
Okay. That may or may not change.
Right.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Any more questions?
No, it looks like we're set up all right, and we did good last year.
I
Hey,
think we did great. Considering what we did, we're fine. And
I
fine.
mean, we only had half a year's worth of reasonable activity
Yeah.
and revenue generation from one show. And yeah, that's not bad.
It's not bad at all. And we ended the year with $21,000 or so. It's great. Thank
Cool.
you. And the big issue, the big change that happened a few years ago is that we don't have to rent the hall from the church anymore. The rental at the Elks Lodge is much cheaper than the church.
Right.
That's great. Thank you, David. Okay, chapter development report. Elliot.
Yeah, so so looking back at attendance in December, the beginning
Was
of
that bad?
was looking pretty good with 31 people attending on December 2nd, but it's kind of been downhill. I mean, a combination of the holidays and I think concerns over COVID have brought it down to it's like been 23, 24 the past couple of times. We've been doing pretty well with guests. We some new guests were Prashant, Harsha, Zach, who we picked up at the Menlo Park train thing, and
Did any of them come last Thursday? I don't remember seeing them.
sorry, these are remnants of a cold. I have tested negatively twice past week. So, sorry, you were asking.
Did any of them come on Thursday? I don't remember
No,
seeing
no,
them.
we didn't.
Yeah.
We did not have any guests on Thursday. And Drew Cairn was someone who'd come quite a bit earlier and did come on December 2nd, I think it was, or maybe December 9th. And he's still interested. He wasn't able to come this week. There are also there are two new prospects. One of them is this guy from the Netherlands, Robert, that I talked about, that was hoping to attend last year. So I need to check in with him. But someone else who came in through Nathan, I guess someone who was asking about auditions with VIH. Nathan referred him to me. His name is Nick Ulig. And Curtis, I think you might know him.
He is he the relatively young guy, like in his 20s?
I don't know how old he is. He's a bass. He doesn't have barbershop experience, but
He's got choir experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, he came in and sang with us 3 or 4 times over the summer. I think he was, if it's the guy I'm thinking of, he actually like lived in the Dakotas or something and was moving to California.
Okay.
So
Well, apparently he reached out to VIH. And so
Excellent.
they got referred to me, and I've been in communication with him. He was hoping to come on Thursday, couldn't make it, but says he'll be there next week.
Bonus.
In terms of the campaign, there just been too many things in flux, and I just didn't feel it was a good time to really mount something aggressive. I think I'd like to wait another couple of weeks. I also want to get an updated photo of the chorus at rehearsal, because right now all I've got is are the holiday shots. I'm just not happy with the material I have. So it would be nice to get another shot. But yeah, I mean, I'd be ready to mount that next door campaign. I think when things are a little more stable, we've worked out the protocol and we know how we feel about things. I actually felt pretty guilty about going to our guests. I sent them all something. Are we going to see you on Thursday? And then I was thinking, okay, these are guests. They're all new, like, do we really know what their vaccine status is? And maybe I shouldn't be encouraging them to come at such an uncertain time. It turned out no one showed up. But, with that kind of feeling, it's really hard to mount an aggressive campaign. In terms of transfers, so Shiv has completed his transfer. He's a full member. Mark Torrance is now in. I'm working with Danny and Curtis. I don't know what your status is. They never published the December 31st report, so I'm still looking at December 15th. So I know that I had initiated.
I think I had gotten an email from BHS right before the holidays, and then of course the holidays took place, and this week I've had other issues I've been dealing with. So this next week is my plan to get that going.
Okay.
So Curtis, I got a question for you while you're on the VIH topic. You had a meeting a couple of Tuesdays ago or during the December about wrapping up VIH status. Did anything happen?
Yeah, for the most, the group has voted to do that, and so that's what we are urging people to do at this point. And so the last bits, we're trying to make sure that there is no more income coming into the new year, which I'm hoping that the board has managed to deal with that aspect.
Okay, so we're still, because Greg wanted to wrap it up last year, but that hasn't happened quite yet.
I think probably better pose question to him.
Okay. Thank you.
So So Elliot, I have a question for you. You were talking about the transfers. What's the status of, was it Mark Miller, I think is his last name, and Rich Postal?
Ben Miller,
Mark.
is
There's a
there?
Mark, isn't it Miller, the base?
Oh, are you thinking Mark Wilson?
Wilson, yes.
Yeah, he's a member.
Okay, so that's been completed, okay. And Rich Postal?
He's a member as well.
So that's been completed as well.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So yeah, Nathan, Mark. So Nathan Staples, Mark Torrance, Mark Wilson,
Rich Postal,
Rich Postal,
and you're working on Danny.
working on Danny and Curtis.
Okay, and then Larry, who's the baritone that's.
Larry Weiss.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I need to reach out to him. So there's some consolidation I want to do on Groupanizer, and I've been kind of working with Larry on it, trying to make sense of everything, because there's like a lot of stale stuff in transition, people who are candidates, and we really want to get it cleaned up. And part of that process is getting a final word on people that we're not hearing from or who are not attending things. I know about some of them, like David Kaufman, I know won't be able to, he's probably going to go off the roster. But there are some others I'm not sure about. I know that Greg is interested in coming back, and I believe the same is true of Larry Weiss. But I just want to systematically go through, there's Joey Barabay, there are a bunch of people I'm not.
I talked to Larry actually quite regularly, and yes, he is very interested in coming over. But right now with pandemic, he'll only meet if we're meeting outside. So he's not rehearsal ready for us right now. Joey Barabay is a young man who actually Larry brought in. Joey is a great performer, great a young musician. Who's also very heavily active with his church. So we end up getting him is about 50-50 of the time, because he'll go do big performances for his church and then come back with us for a couple of months. It's kind of back and forth.
So would you recommend we keep him as a candidate?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. Can I maybe go over this with you offline, or like?
Sure. We can set something up, Elliot. That's not a problem.
Okay, great. Yeah, because I'd like to.
Elliot, what did you say about Larry Wise?
What I said is that he's interested. Well, I think Curtis was explaining that he didn't want to do anything due to COVID unless we were doing it outside.
But is he officially a member? I thought he was officially a member. Or no?
That I don't know.
Let me, if on Groupanizer he is, sorry about that. Let me take a quick look. He may be actually.
I got some badges, and I had him.
He is a member. He is a member. Yep.
Also, if you're getting badges, Paul, that helps. That will help Elliot and me clean up Groupanizer, because unfortunately, still, the BHS site is really hard to understand. Who's really paid. What did we see last night? We saw like 45 members.
Yeah, no,
on the roster. I'm like, what?
There's some people that have contradictory entries on the same spreadsheet. They appear multiple times.
Mm-hmm.
The one listing active, the other one former. It's just a mess.
It's a mess.
And I also don't understand what the difference is between chorus roster and chapter roster, and it's like really very difficult. So I need to work with BHS to get some clear definitions, and also to find out, what's going on with these contradictory entries.
Elliot, real quick, the difference between chorus and chapter, is chapter, you can be a member and not be showing up to Thursday nights. So the chorus roster is who's like active singers, who's regular attending rehearsals.
Well,
So
then,
so the chapter is who's paying dues. So like
Okay.
I'm a chapter member of like 3 or 4 different chapters, but I'm a chorus member of only one.
okay, how then does BHS maintain visibility?
They don't maintain chorus membership at all.
Well, they have, it's in their spreadsheet.
Unless it's 1-to-1, I have no idea how they would keep track of that. I would
Yeah.
expect that. I would treat that as extremely inaccurate.
Okay, so I will pay attention to the chapter for dues, and I think we're gonna have to be, I will ignore them, and we will be the judge of what chorus is.
Exactly.
And as part of the discussion that we're gonna have that got added to the agenda, I have some test cases I wanna look at. And on the basis of that, offline, Larry and I will be able to figure out what to do.
Yeah, from our perspective, I think that's exactly right. I think we want to think in terms of how many guys are coming, who is coming on a weekly basis. Those are the core. Those are the crux of our membership.
Okay. I just heard from Curtis that the process has been completed. Congratulations. Welcome. I guess you're in
Yay.
December.
I had missed because there was that fiasco of me trying to get logged in, and I had missed their last email, and so it took me a second to search it up.
Did you pass your audition, and did we vote for you?
You better give this guy.
I mean, he can't even show up for a rehearsal. What are you going to do?
Really? I mean,
And he needs a mask too.
Curtis, for your badge, since you're officially a member, I'll get you a badge. But for Mike, he wanted to say co-director on his badge.
Perfect.
Okay.
And I guess we should also, we should make you a director on Groupenizer.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
I did already, Elliot. Remember that thing about mine not making wholesale changes? That was one I did yesterday. I made him a director.
Okay. That's
All right.
It's the right thing.
Thanks, Elliot.
All right. Thank you.
All right. So next, a marketing VP report. Larry.
We're things are moving along really well. I'm getting our Valentine's. I'm almost ready to create the post for our Valentine campaign. Been working on a kind of a different concept for this year's round, but I'm not sure if I'm going to go with it or not. Basically, I got videos, video clips of VC's Vocal Capital's recordings from last year, and I was thinking about doing maybe a little 10-second clip of sample clips so that people, when they can review the tune before they make their selections.
Is the website ready for ordering?
I've got the link ready. It's ready, but it's not
Active.
active yet. Well, actually, no, it is active. It's just sitting. It's in limbo until I actually post it. So we've got the link set up. Mark and I set it up because we're offering both virtual and in person. So we streamlined the order form, which basically gives you the option in that page to decide whether you want to pay the $30 for virtual or $75 for in person. So it's almost there. I'm just playing with these videos. Not quite sure if I'm going to do them or not. And with regards to Valentine's, I wanted to ask if the board would approve a little stipend for Jack Hale. He's never asked for any money to do the artwork for us, but he has been doing it for a couple of years. He's quick. He does nice work. And because I've got money in the marketing budget and didn't really spend any of it last year, just wondering if maybe we can kick down $50 to him. It's not his normal rate.
I'm not sure that, I'd have to think about that. I'm not sure that's legal. He's a member.
Right?
We really, I'm not sure who to ask the question to, but.
Oh,
Yeah, Dave, that flipped my radar too. I mean, like, if he has a separate sole proprietorship, I mean, like, it's theoretically legal. It would probably be a BHS question.
Yeah, I'd have to check into that.
okay. Would you like?
The distinction is just directing chapter monies to an individual member versus paying for a service. Like we have the contracts that I'm waiting for the signed contracts from Mike and Curtis on the co-directorship. That's a contracted structure with a third party that is, even though they're both members, they have this other relationship. So something like that with Jack, if it were in place, would make it okay, probably make it okay, because we just can't give members money, I think, is part of the deal, unless it's a receipt for an expense that they incurred on behalf of the organization.
Okay.
So we're kind of constrained by some of these nuances.
That's
Okay.
correct. That's correct.
Dave?
We can pay people back for expenses, but it's very touchy paying people.
Okay. Dave Morley, would you like to check with BHS or shall I? I have no problem asking to see if there's a way to do it, or like Dave K mentioned, maybe we just contract him as our creative artist or something.
If he has a contract and, and the board approves it, then I think it's probably okay, but it would probably be best to check with
Okay.
the VHS, and if you would do that, that'd be wonderful.
Okay, I'll take care of it. He did not ask for payment. We were just talking about it. I said, you've done a lot for us. I want to see if maybe we can toss you a bone. So I'll look into it.
Thanks, Larry.
Other than that, Valentine's is the next biggie, so it's close. I did get a message on our Facebook page last night. Don't get a lot of them. A lot of people look at our site and they like our site and they follow us, but very seldom do I get a message. Got a message from a young man who found us on singers.com, which I didn't even know we existed there. And it said that we meet, apparently he said it reads that we meet on Tuesdays.
Oh boy, that's from multiple years ago. That's
Yeah.
like
But
years ago.
But our Facebook page obviously says we meet on Thursdays. So I couldn't respond to the singers.com concern, but I did respond to, thank you for your interest. We do indeed meet Thursdays, 7:30, blah, blah, at Sunnyvale Elks. So maybe we'll see a new guest on Thursday. But yeah, singers.com, I got to figure out if that even.
Larry, that may be
That was
something
set
that
up.
Steve Salmons had set up.
Yeah, no, I set that
Might
up. That
also
was
be
John set up.
Okay, wait, one at a time.
related to a Bay Area acapella. too.
correct. No, it's not. It's not Bay Area acapella. But there are a number of things that I did way back when. Bay Area acapella was one. Bay Area choral was another one. Singers.com was another one. When, at the time, that was when we were meeting. It's 10 or more years ago.
Okay.
When we did that. And so the people who are searching websites, can find some of that historical information. And that's what it is. It's just historical. I don't even know how to do that anymore. I just know that I did it at one time. So.
Okay. Well, no harm, no foul. Just
They do have a contact us, and I imagine if you just drop a note and tell them.
Right.
okay.
Yeah, they may not change it though. It's not very active, singers.com anymore. Used to be much more active. So
Okay.
Yeah, actually, in the future, if you could also refer him to the meetup site. Not a requirement, but a good place to get more information about actual rehearsals.
Okay.
Thanks, Larry. Next, John Wanless, program.
Yeah, there's really nothing updated with that. We certainly had our programs set for the holidays, which is good. And I think that the program is moving along with Mike and Dave setting that up every Saturday. So I know of nothing new in that. So
Thanks, John. Music VP report. Dave Kay.
Yes, thank you. Sent out the write-up several days ago. Is there any, let's see, is there any update to any of this? We're gonna have, I see on the agenda, we're gonna have a conversation about performance coaches, and I put a lot of information in there about that. Hope you all had a chance to look at that. We will dive into that more deeply during our session here today. Other than that, the only thing we have coordinated all of the last sort of threads that need to be tied down relative to the co-director structure. Soon as we get the physical documents back and for Dana to sign, I don't know if you guys sent them to Dana or not, but Dana needs to sign them as president. And I don't know that we're all set with that. So effectively we are operational beginning as of January 1st, it's official. So that's very exciting. I'm thrilled with that. And so that's all I have to say about that. One last thing. I did mention in the report having reached out to Angela at Mission Valley about the performing with them in conjunction with a high school group and whatever, because we talked about this at a music team meeting and we had some conversation about this, I believe, a little bit of this at a board meeting. We do not yet have a firm date, though I think we're looking at the last part of April as a logical time frame for doing a spring show. And we are going to need to sort of start solidifying a relationship with a high school group if we're going to be doing a high school group, or a college group if we're going to be doing a college group, and that's still up in the air. And I did ask in the write-up if I could get some help somewhere from somebody to try to address this issue of what should a Peninsulaires performance uniform look like moving forward, because we got a bunch of new members. And do I order more shirts of the old type? Do we get new shirts, new stuff for everybody? What are we going to do? And I have not been able to address that on my own. It's just like so much has been going on that that's what I fell through the cracks. So I could use support in addressing that type of a topic for anybody. I don't know if a board member is able to do that, or if we can identify someone within the group to assist with that, but it sure would be nice to get a little backup on that. That's all I have.
Okay, thanks, Dave.
So do I have any volunteers?
Dave,
Or who should I ask?
let's address that just a skosh during the coaching segment, because
Okay.
I do have a line item in there about uniforms.
Okay.
That might help frame it a little bit.
Okay, good enough.
That's
Thank
a
you.
good idea. Thanks, Mike. Okay, so that ends our formal reports.
Dana?
Yeah,
Dana,
yes.
One more thing on the treasury report. I have to, by the middle of May, do an audit. So I too am looking for a couple volunteers to come over and help me do an audit of the books from last year. I did not do one for 2020 because of COVID. But I absolutely need to do one for 2021. So if there's anybody who would like to spend a couple hours coming over to my house and looking at all the books and everything and double checking that I haven't taken too many cruises on Barbershop Money, and you know, let me know. Thank you.
Sure, I can do
Yeah.
that.
But
I'll
Dana
help
cannot
you.
do it.
Oh,
Dana cannot do it because he's
Oh,
a
okay.
signature on the account.
yeah, I'll do that. I'll do that, Dave.
All right, thanks, Mike, for volunteering.
Dave, I did it with you once before, a long time ago. Am I?
Good, yeah, that's right. So Billy, that'd be good. Paul and Mike and John Jones has helped in the past. So I'll ask John, so the three of you can do it. That'd be great. That's all I need.
Thank you, Dave. Okay, so do I hear a motion to accept the reports?
So moved.
Second, Dave, okay, all in favor, raise your hand. All right, that concludes our formal reports. Okay, moving on actually into old business, and this one is very timely. Our awards banquet planning. Right now, I'm kind of struggling with this. We only have really 10 people that have signed up for the banquet.
Dana, is that 10 Peninsulaires or 10 including spouses?
That's 10 Peninsulaires, and then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spouses.
I have money from 7.
Okay, and so I guess there's only so far 3 of us on the board that have said that they want to attend, and so I wanted to kind of get a pulse of the board.
Yeah, it's kind of important that board members
Yeah.
attend the installation banquet.
So I just changed mine to a 10. Where do I sign up? Where do I put the +1?
It in the form, the sign up form.
Oh, I maybe I don't have the form. Maybe I didn't check the form. Okay.
It's one attached to a menu.
Just for everybody's information, I cannot attend because Betty's 3 days later and she's having a COVID test the morning of the installation dinner. Then theoretically we should quarantine until her surgery test. So I cannot attend.
Okay, so Mike, I could put you in if you can't find it.
Well, this just yeah. So yeah, Barbara and I are planning to come.
Okay,
Where do I pay?
Well, you give it to Dave Morley at a meeting.
Okay.
to me, just give them a check, yeah. And so anybody else on the board planning to attend that hasn't
That has-
already signed up? So Curtis and Mike, how about you?
Right now, I'm not feeling great about being inside eating food with 30 people. If it were outdoor, I'd be more inclined. But like right this second, I'm not loving sitting inside unmasked.
Paul?
Well, was any thought given to maybe having the things virtual, the awards virtual, and then having a banquet later down the road?
Yeah, well, that's an option that came to my mind as well, but I wanted to get the pulse of the board and have you guys, participate in this decision. So right now, I know there are several that have expressed a concern about even coming to rehearsals.
Yeah, I
So,
I feel the same way. I think I'm not enamored of going sitting in a restaurant, at this point in time. I think later is better. I just think, yes,
So wait a minute, should we move up this discussion then and have it now? Because it seems to affect so many other things.
A question about, yes, that's a good point, Mike, but a question about installation dinner. Dave Morley, you may know the answer to this. Is there any timing consideration on when the installation of new officers should take place relative to BHS protocol?
Not that I'm aware of. I mean, we can, we could officially say we're all starting now. I mean,
There's no, we've already voted, so
Yeah.
all we have to do is update the BHS.
Okay, so there
Yeah.
isn't, unlike the need to have an election within a certain window, there isn't.
no, not to my
Okay,
knowledge.
okay, good.
No, not to my knowledge.
Okay, well then that from my perspective, then that eases up the concern as to whether or not it's something that ought to happen now, or if it can happen later, it's no big deal. So yeah, okay.
And the awards, the idea of giving out an award for last year, I mean, that we should do that as soon as we can, and that can be done virtually, like Paul suggested. So, it'd be nice to give out the award. If we're giving a barbershop of the year award, we should do that sometime soon.
Yeah, okay.
All right, Larry.
I'm feeling the same way as Mike C. and a couple of others that I talked to Thursday. And there's got to be we've got to consider a different way. And I think I'm going to offer, two ideas here. An easy one would be to forego the banquet part and just do our installation and awards at a rehearsal, because we can do something similar to what Mike and I tried Thursday night, which was everybody had a mask on and we sang in a humongous circle. Okay. Because there is so much room at the Elks, we can all safely be separated, but still be together to appreciate the installation of the officers usually it's done by a district dignitary of some sort, and receiving an award virtually. It's okay, but it's a lot more fun when it's actually handed to you. And so it's kind of a twofold thing I'm throwing into one. Wouldn't it be easier this time around, given where we're at with COVID, to maybe consider just doing it on a Thursday evening?
Yeah, I guess there are some guys that won't come on a Thursday.
Well, they might come just for that.
Just for that.
Pop in and then do that and leave, and if everyone is masked, I think. But I think that's a reasonable suggestion, Larry.
Or could we do it as a dry run of trying to get a Zoom meeting set up at a chorus rehearsal, since that's something we may want to be doing for other reasons as well.
So, I mean, I have something to say on this general topic, and I don't know exactly where it fits in. And I sort of suspect that I'm not going to convince too many people, but I'd kind of like to say it and at least, put it out there. I feel like we're all fighting the last war here. That we're acting as though we're a year ago, before we had vaccines, and it was this terrible unknown thing, and it's not anymore. If you're vaccinated, it's going to be endemic, right? We're not going to get rid of it. We're all going to get exposed. Some of us are going to get sick. We're pretty much going to be okay. I feel like we should not be. It's time to live our lives again. This is the way I feel about it. And so the idea of, you know, this is, then there's the other aspect of it, which is I recognize that, you know, other people have different strike zones from me on this point. So that means that, you know, I can't, there are going to be people who aren't comfortable with it, and maybe too many to do this sort of thing, but.
Mike, I think it goes a level deeper, and that is there are certain governmental activities going on that are changing what venues are able to do, whether they will allow people in without verification, and if you, and like right now, Santa Clara County is saying if you go indoors and more than 10 people, you should be wearing a mask. And so there are certain artificial limiters that are being put on people. I look at Bert, for instance, the community he lives in has established their internal requirements that he needs to follow if he's going to live there. And so we have certain certain limitations that are being forced on the social groups beyond the just the, you know, how we individually feel about it.
I recognize that. I recognize that, and of course, you know, we have to stay in compliance with those things.
Right.
But whether we need to go above and beyond that, you know, I mean, as I say, you know, I understand that people have different risk tolerances, and I want everybody to feel comfortable and so on. But you know, for when does this end? I feel like, you know, Omicron is this gift. Omicron is a gift. Everybody's going to be exposed, and then we're going to be okay. You know, and yeah, go ahead, Paul.
Well, the reality is that some people, whether what you're saying is true or not, some people are just not going to attend. I think we should make.
I recognize that. Yeah, I recognize that.
We should make this so that the most people can attend.
Yeah, I think
What's your opinion?
I want to step in here for a minute. I think I don't want to have anybody feel they're excluded.
I agree.
Our mainstream members and their families. And so I would suggest that we find a different method to go ahead and do the installation and the awards, but not in the restaurant environment. So
well, are we going to have a banquet later then? Or
yeah, and then we can
that's the
have
intention.
we can have one later when people feel, and just celebrate. We also have other things to celebrate too. The VIH guys coming to join us. You know, competitions back on, you know, available through BHS and other venues. So lots to celebrate later on too. So
I think the other thing that is going on right now, I just read an article this morning. The city of Pleasanton has told all of the restaurants in the downtown community to remove their outdoor dining because they want to standardize what it looks like. But at the same time, there is the possibility that there's going to be the enforcement of challenges with indoor dining if we don't see the downward trend on the Omicron thing here in the next couple of weeks. So that kind of puts the possibility of even us doing this on the 21st, it was sort of on the bubble. So, and we may not have a choice, but hopefully that's going to blow through. Kathy and I went to breakfast at one of our favorite restaurants this morning, and it was, you know, a wonderful experience. I love it. But, you know, hey, if they shut these places down again, which is going to be really hard on the business owners, but if they force that, then we won't have an option. So I do kind of like the idea, what Dana was saying and I think Larry commented, let's do something to acknowledge last year's awardees and have an activity that ties into maybe a Thursday night to do that, and plan for a big celebration as we get through this situation, and then we can really do it upright, and have a hearty party that everybody's going to come to, and not at the Elks, because the Elks is nice, but we need a really cool place to have a party.
Yeah, amen. Okay, so we'll withdraw our reservation at Don Giovanni's for the 23rd and come up with a plan for awards and installation that will be either at the Elks in a condition that would be acceptable to everybody, like no singing and mass and separated physical separation.
We're going to do that on a Thursday night. Is that what you're suggesting, Dana?
I think that would be the easiest. We'd be able to, because everybody's pretty well scheduled to be there on a Thursday night. See if we can get Blaise and Harry, if you're willing, under certain conditions, to come in, because I like to have all the board there too.
Yeah, I mean, even if it's for the first 20 minutes and then people can go. All right, so
I will bring all of the checks that I've received on Thursday night and return them. I won't deposit.
okay.
Yeah, and I'll
So-
figure out what Thursday makes sense also with Mike and Curtis.
I was just going to ask them, Mike and Curtis. I was thinking maybe not this Thursday, but the following Thursday. I mean, we might be able to do it this Thursday, but I know Curtis can't be there this Thursday. So it would be nice if he is able to be there. So 2 weeks from Thursday, does that sound good to people?
Yeah. You think it's like a half-hour segment?
Yeah. I mean, right at the
Yeah.
beginning, we sing, we all come together and we do it. And then the guys that are uncomfortable sticking around can go home.
Yeah, fine.
Okay, so we're talking on the,
Curtis.
I'm sorry, what's that,
Curtis,
Terry?
Are you thinking of making this a Zoom meeting,
No,
only in person?
ideally in person. People come in for, everybody's separated. You wear your mask if you don't want to stick around. We'll have the doors open and the fans going for circulation and stuff.
But possibly a Zoom experiment, because
Possibly so. We could potentially do that too. Yes.
so that those that can't attend could still see what's going on. So that's
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Mike C and I will take that offline and we'll figure it out.
And we need to do that anyway.
Yes, we have to start doing it.
so are we talking about the 20th or the 27th?
20th.
20th.
20th. Okay, so that's our target for this. We'll work on it this next week. All right, thanks, guys. All right, Valentine planning. I think Larry's already covered his part of it. Is there anything else that needs to be done? Dave Cokerhook?
Do we have any feel for quartet availability other than Vocal Capital? And I'm guessing Boomerang. Mike C, is your quartet available for Valentine's?
I can check with them today.
Larry?
I might have something that started Thursday night. I'll check with those guys today and see if they might want to work on a few tunes.
Curtis, do you have a quartet that's forming, right? Or has formed?
I do, however, and again, all of this is up in the air right now. I was originally planning on going on a weekend cruise that weekend, and
Ooh, how cool.
it was going to be lovely. And right at the moment, I'm not sure what's going to happen with that.
Yeah, every cruise that's currently out on the water, my wife tells me, she's a travel agent, has COVID. Every cruise is currently on the water. Terry, what's the status of metronomes?
Well, John Wanless John Wooldridge is, came to our rehearsals for a while, and he hasn't been there for a while, and I'm not sure what his status is, but he pointed out that he hasn't sung for a while and would require a lot of work to kind of get back into things. John Jones is sort of wanted to retire from metronomes, and I'm not sure what Rick King's thing is, but so I think we should not count on metronomes doing anything.
Okay, thanks.
All right. Anything else on Valentine's?
Yeah, the reason I'm curious about that is it does have an impact on how many Valentines can be delivered, how many quartets. If we only have one quartet available, that limits us. If we have 4 quartets available, we have a lot more ability to deliver. So that's why I was curious. And it looks like we have probably 3, maybe 4.
Yeah, that'll be enough.
Okay.
That'll probably be enough. Boomerang moves a little slower because Al Ward now moves a little slower.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Okay.
A lot of us are moving slower. All right. New business. So let's jump into the, let's see, we talked about the co-director contracts. So all we need is the signed contracts back from Curtis and Mike C to me, for me to sign, and then we're done.
Yeah, Dana, I just sent you a DocuSign. Maybe we can do this thing electronically. Curtis, if you want to do, if you want me to prep a DocuSign package for your guys' signing as well, that's an easy thing for me to do.
Sure.
Bonus.
Okay,
I'll
so,
prep a DocuSign package for you and Curtis as well.
oh, that's great. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, paper sucks for me.
I've got an old school scanner and all that stuff, so that's me, but
Nice.
we can do it the other way if needed. All right, the next item is coaching planning.
Dana, could I suggest that we go to the protocol, the COVID protocol first, and because I think that'll be faster, and then get that, because the other one's going to be a lengthy conversation, I think.
Yeah, we also had another late item added to the agenda, and that's the groupinizer, rehashing of the groupinizer. I don't know if Elliot and Larry want to address that today or not. You guys still want to talk about that?
It'd be nice
Larry?
to get started.
Okay. So we could do that before the coaching planning. But let's
Elliot,
go.
do you need everybody here, or can we do like an after call breakout on the groupinizer stuff?
There are a couple of questions that we might get answers to with some of our longer term members.
Okay.
I know that we came up with a couple of questions last night that we thought, let's ask at the meeting, maybe somebody will have an answer or an idea. Right, Elliot?
Yeah, and I think so maybe, and there were 2 parts to it. One was to ask the questions, and then the other was to go through some test cases. So maybe the test cases we could do with smaller group afterwards.
Okay. So let's do the COVID protocol review next. So Elliot, do you want to lead this, or Harry?
I can start.
Let's Harry do it. Yeah, go ahead, Harry.
Go, Doctor.
Yeah, so Elliot and I were tasked with revising the COVID protocol, which we did, and then based on feedback, we revised it, and based on feedback, we revised the revision a couple of times.
Do you have the latest version for us to take a look at?
Yeah, I'm not. I have one that's all marked up, and I'm not sure.
I
Challenge.
I can share.
All that, maybe.
Want me to share?
It's better at doing that.
Go ahead, Elliot, share.
Okay.
Put it up there. But just while he's doing that, just personal thing. I mean, obviously, we're not doing this. Yeah, there it is. In a vacuum. We're in the middle of this spike in cases, and we wanted to describe, what we were obligated to do under current county guidelines, but in some cases, and we'll get to that when we talk about vaccines, went beyond what's just required because of the present situation, and we'll discuss that when it comes to it. For me personally, like others, I've been having some thoughts about whether to participate in-person rehearsals during this time. And I was assuming, of course, that we were going to be on risers where it's hard to distance appropriately and where most people aren't wearing masks. And then so I missed the rehearsal on Thursday, but then I see everybody on the recording is standing in a circle with masks and distancing. But even so, I've decided just to take a pause on in-person indoor group activities in general for just a little while, not just for myself, but I have family members and friends that I come in contact with that will be very vulnerable if they got an infection, and I just want to be super cautious. But I'm impressed of how the course has gone above and beyond what they've had to do to try to ensure everyone's safety. And if continues with everyone masking and with distancing, it'll make it easier for me to rejoin at a sooner date. But well, we'll see. That's up to the chorus as a whole, of course. So anyway, to get to the issue at hand with the protocol, well, there's basically 4 ways that we can mitigate COVID transmissibility, and that's vaccines, masks, social distancing, and ventilation. We didn't address ventilation in the protocol because it's hard to quantify, and I think we're doing a pretty good job of that as it is. The other thing, social distancing, we, I think, said accurately, if we're on risers, we do the best we can, but we can only do so much on the risers. It's hard to distance adequately, not only from people who are on either side of us, but in front or in back of us. But we do the best we can. But certainly better was the configuration that I saw in the recording for last Thursday, when people were truly distancing from each other. Do I see a hand up?
Yeah, I did want to ask you about that, because the original distancing, the 6-foot thing, was, in my understanding, that was based on the idea that they had originally that most transmission was droplet based. And I think that the thinking on that has now changed, and that they now believe that most transmission is aerosol based. And for aerosols, distancing really doesn't make that much difference. So I'm curious what you know, what sort of studies you might know about that say whether distancing is even a worthwhile thing to do.
Okay, so yes, there are 2 ways that COVID is transmitted. It's a respiratory transmission by the moisture we exhale. And the moisture comes in 2 forms. The larger particles of drops are called droplets, and the smaller are aerosol. The droplets usually fall to the ground within a few feet of, so if we're 6 feet apart, it minimizes the droplet transmission, or if we're wearing masks, that also mitigates droplet transmission. The aerosol can hang in the air and disperse throughout the entire room over time, so that doesn't matter for distancing as far as the aerosol. Now, I don't know which is more or less. I guess it depends on where you are and what group you're in. And if everybody's close together, droplet transmission certainly is still very important. If somebody basically is spitting on you, if you will, exuding moisture right on you, yeah, that's important. And so distancing and masks certainly can mitigate that, and I think it's certainly worthwhile still. So masks, we're operating under the guidelines of Santa Clara County, which allow for singing while performing or practicing without masks indoors. Now that directive was issued in early August and is still in force. But of course, the situation that we find ourselves in January 2022 is quite a bit different than it was last summer, when the weather's nice and we can rehearse outdoors and the prevalence was much lower, and et cetera. So, but the language that we used in the protocol was the language that is used by the county, that you know, it's permitted to sing without masks while singing or while performing or practicing, but it's up to the choir if we want to go above and beyond that, given the present situation. And I personally was very gratified to see the chorus did last Thursday. And finally, vaccines. Here we tried to be more specific about the language. For example, what constitutes fully vaccinated, using definitions that are put forward by the health authorities, and be very specific about whether it's a 2-dose regimen or a 1-dose regimen, and how long after you receive the regimen you are considered fully vaccinated, and what vaccines are approved to be considered fully vaccinated. Elliot put a link on the protocol that a person can click on, where you can see a list of the approved vaccines of the World Health Organization that are also recognized by the CDC. Now, the part that may be more controversial, that goes beyond the requirement for fully vaccinated. Fully vaccinated does not include boosters, first of all. So there's two things. One is, do we require proof of vaccination? You know, we've been on the honor system so far. And the other is, do we include proof of receiving boosters with the initial series? It's clear that boosters are important with these variants. However, although at one point we had wanted to require proof of boosters, in the end we decided not to do that, because it's very, very difficult to implement. Because, you know, the requirement for boosters, it varies. What vaccine did you receive? How long after the initial series are you? Sometimes boosters are recommended for individuals that are more vulnerable and not for others. And it's just, it would be a real monster to try to implement. So we dropped. But we did leave in a requirement that for proof of vaccination. And I know this might be controversial, and we can discuss it. A lot of other organizations are doing this in some cities, to go into a cafe or whatever, show proof of vaccination. And let me just say, right at the outset, this has nothing to do with, you know, are we trustworthy or not, or do we trust each other, etc. I think it's more just to give everyone an assurance that indeed everyone's fully vaccinated. Vaccines are the most important defense we have against this disease. And it's not only for us, you know, we're trying to grow. We have a presence on Facebook and on Meetup, and we want to have a presence on Nextdoor and maybe other sites as well. Have guests come in, try to get new members. And as the membership grows, if we get more guests in, we just want to be sure that all participants, which would be members or who happens to be there, that you have to be vaccinated and have proof of vaccination to participate. Now, for members, or for anyone really, this is a one-time thing, because if you've received your initial series, you're fully vaccinated. This could be done in a variety of ways. Other organizations I belong to, the way they do it is they have a link that, and for us, it would probably be some site on Groupanizer, where you could upload your vaccine card. It would be a restricted site, not open to everyone, but just maybe to a couple of people, or a very small number of people who keep the list of who's vaccinated. I know there's been talk about, well, maybe we could do this incrementally and maybe start with guests and new members. My view is that if we're going to do it, it probably should be an all or none thing, because otherwise, I mean, if, let's say, we say that members are, let's say we start with guests and new members. Well, you know, we're like asking them to do something that we're not willing to do ourselves. If we all do it, it's sending a message that this is important to us. It's something we've all done and we want new people to do it as well. If it's just, you know, we say that we require it, but not for members or grandfathered people in, first of all, it's ineffective because then, yeah, I agree. Probably everybody's fully vaccinated, but it's still probably, it's not confirmed. So I think that this is a good thing to do, and I think it should be universal, but in the end, this is something that requires a consensus of everyone, and whatever the consensus is going forward, that's what we'll do. I think that's all I have to say. And so, Elliot, do you want to chime in?
Yeah, I just want to add to that. If we take Shiv, for example, Shiv joined us at a point where the only thing I was doing was referring them to the protocol in some communication. I never asked them, confirm that you've been vaccinated or give me the dates of your vaccines or anything like that. I started asking that later. So Shiv, for example, is now a member, and you know, he wasn't there at the time that we set up the protocol. So, you know, it sort of becomes a slippery slope. Where do you draw the line? I see Dave wants to say something.
Yeah, just a comment. So there was an activity in, well, we went, my family went to the, what's his name, the artistic exhibit down in San Jose, the Van Gogh exhibit, and they had us show vaccination, proof of vaccination before going in. Last Sunday, we were up in San Francisco at another artistic exhibit, and they said, let's see your vaccination cards. Everybody showed the vaccination card, they let them in. My quartet did a gig in December up at an event center in San Francisco that was a private event, and in order to get in, you had to show proof of vaccination. I mean, it's just like a lot of the thing, it's becoming no big deal in my experience for people to say, oh yeah, here, because it's all digitized. You can just, here's the QR code, look at that, boom. And so I don't envision it being a challenge. I think pretty much everyone, I don't know of anyone in our organization who has not been vaccinated. And I'm gonna guess that if they've gone anywhere in the last 3 months, other than from their house to our rehearsal, that they're gonna have been asked for validation. So I think we just figure out the right wording here on the protocol. We do this and it's done.
Mike Oliver.
Yeah, so first of all, I agree with Harry that we don't want to have a two-tier system. That's just then we're starting to say like, okay, well, you're a member, but not really. We don't quite trust you as much as we do the people we know, and I want to stay away from that. I agree that it's not that big a deal, but it still bugs me a little bit, you know, and I think it's going to bug some people. It's just it's kind of obnoxious to ask people for proof, I think. So, you know, on my own, I would saying the way that I feel about it personally, I would vote against it. On the other hand, if it does make people more comfortable, I could possibly be convinced if you know, we're going to say, well, some people aren't going to come unless we have a proof protocol involved, then I suppose I could live with that, but I don't like it.
Living with it and not liking it are two different things, but I understand what you're saying, Mike. So you'd be okay if the group approved such.
You know, I'll do it. I've got my card on Google Photos. I'll just upload the photo. Sure, I can do it.
Okay,
It's just
great.
kind of annoying. Yeah.
It is annoying, but
It is annoying.
part of daily life, I think. Many organizations I'm involved with, it's the same thing. And some of them require uploading the document to their site, but okay, so
Larry has his hand up.
Larry.
With regard to the written protocol that we're all looking at here, I agree that all the information on this sheet is important. I wonder if there's a possibility that we could condense it a little bit more. There's an awful lot of verbiage. Chances are people aren't going to read it from top to bottom. Maybe we just need to bullet it a little bit more, and be, a little more specific about what our protocol is with regards to rehearsing and such. And the other comment I have is what we tried Thursday night, and Harry, thank you for mentioning it. I think what we tried Thursday night, given the current surge of Omicron in the Bay Area, is something that we should continue to do, because we may find that there are some guys that didn't really like the, trying to spread out on risers and whatnot. I mean, in that big circle with everybody wearing masks, and I don't want to use the word enforcement, but and Mike, so you can back me up here if you want. I think I made it pretty clear Thursday night that, hey guys, we're going to spread out real wide in this big circle and we're all going to wear a mask. Yes, there were some that said, oh, I don't want to wear a mask. Well, we're wearing masks tonight, fellas. We got to do what we can do to keep each other safe. And we're in a bad situation right now. So I'm going to propose that we continue with the big circle and everybody's wearing a mask. That's all I got.
I agree.
I don't think we are in a bad situation right now. I really don't.
And maybe you need to read the news a little more, Mike,
None of
because
us believe we are.
it's happening everywhere.
Yeah,
Dave,
it's happening, but
Dave
very
K.
few people are. Okay, go ahead.
Please, Dave.
So I like it, Larry's idea of maybe making bullets, because we can have like a subset of bullets and then a link to the full text of the protocol. I think that makes a lot of sense, because some people like to read all the words and some people are looking at a little bit of stuff. I also think it would be useful when we put this up to put a date as of this date, okay, indicating within right at the beginning, that is as of this date and currently understood circumstances or whatever, that have it identified, because that gives us and the reader the sense that we are adaptable based on changing circumstances. And I would not be opposed, as much as I hate this thought personally, I would not be opposed to indicating that during this time, for the immediate future, that we would sing rehearsals wearing masks, which for me is a very uncomfortable thing, and I dislike it greatly, but I would do it to be able to get things moving, because I think the challenge here, if we don't do something specific like this, we're going to substantially reduce the number of men present, which is going to have a negative impact on the initiatives that we have begun to take the chorus to the next level. Okay. The sound will not be as good because it's a little bit muffled, etc. We're not next to each other. You can't see the guy faces as well. So some of that interactivity and the emotion of physical will be inhibited. But at the same time, we can be working in the direction of this enhanced ability of the course. And we would have a more difficult time doing that if only 50% of the guys show up. So that's my thought.
Thank you. Well, let's see, we need to bring this to resolution then. Are we close enough to adopt the basis?
Hey, Dana,
Thank
let me do one thing of a yes and here. We have not really talked about, so we have the one model, and I think this is very, very appropriate and accurate for indoor events. We haven't explored, and I think possibly to the level that we need to, is there a way we can make outdoor experience effective enough that we can achieve comfort for more of the guys? I've been thinking about this a lot. Like, does this look like a giant circle outside with heaters? Like, is there any possibility of like trying to resurrect the outdoor? Because I'll tell you, there are three things that I'm thinking about. One is the first is the difficulty of doing inside with masks. Like that's a very poor experience for a variety of reasons. Not the least of it is physically challenging. The second is we're trying to do things with facial involvement and physical involvement. It's really hard to coach back if you can't see people's mouths, if you can't see 2/3 of people's faces. And then the third piece is like, what are we optimizing for? Are we optimizing for the maximum number of guys being there, or the maximum or like the like for like improving the craft and stuff like that? So that's stuff I just wanted to throw out there. The other thing is, I think we should absolutely, like, let's start getting the rehearsals on Zoom, because we have guys at home who we know are staying away because of COVID. Let's get them engaged somehow. Let's not exclude 20% of the course because they're sick or just are not comfortable with the risk profile.
Well, thank you, Mike. I don't know if we could implement the outdoor option quickly. There's lighting and heating involved, but
yeah, understood.
Yeah, that's an option. But as far as the currently today, how we move forward, I've heard a proposal that we go ahead and upload vaccination certificates, have people do that. Have the let's see. So have the mask requirement temporarily be for singing, but with the goal of finding a way to not have masks on while singing, and a bulletized version of the rules.
And I think we can put in there, Dana, also what Mike C was saying, that we are working in the direction of being able to rehearse outdoors. Again, the challenge is the temperature and whether or not it's going to be wet again, which I suspect is going to diminish substantially over the next couple of weeks. But I think we can look at that. So does that mean that Larry and Elliot are going to, or I guess Elliot and Harry are going to reformat this into both a bulleted and then a link to, which I guess then Larry, you can put on the website, because a lot of companies do this with their security protocols or their for like what do they call that? Their protocols for privacy. They'll have a couple of bullets and then a link to the full privacy document on their website. This is kind of similar to that.
Are you proposing that we be explicit about masks being worn at all times during rehearsals?
Yes.
Okay.
At this time.
Right. It means that we're going to need to maintain, it's going to be a living document
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
got to be a living document because it's a liquid situation.
Yeah,
And so I thought that by offering a different format, I could then make these changes on the fly as the changes come.
mhm.
So can I ask, how would that work if it's, would we have an extraordinary board meeting to approve changes, or would we be able to do it by email? How when the situation changes, and we don't want to wait for the next month?
Good question.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good question. I guess somebody would have to monitor it and take the initiative to do the update and get it to me so I can get it out to the world. And
So,
to
of
Elliot.
course,
How do we approve it?
Could I suggest that, I'm going to put you on the spot, Harry. Could I suggest that Harry be our
Czar. come on,
person
say it.
who is monitoring any changes of Santa Clara County's, whatever, that stuff, the scenario. And then, if there's a recommendation of an enhancement to what it either open it up or close it down more, whatever, that he be the one to reach out to the board and we do a virtual approval, I think would be, does that seem reasonable, Mike C? Or Mike O?
Yeah, I can live with that. Yeah.
Okay. Harry,
So
are you
we'll have
okay
a-
with that?
I can do that. And, as Elliot and I did this, actually, we were trying to create something that we wouldn't have to constantly revise with every, so it's sort of a general approach to this. But if we're willing to, constantly amend it as the situation changes, that's fine. That's why we used more general language, because we thought it would be more, something that's adaptable as things change. But Elliot, what you want to say something?
And I think when you look at the county's stuff, that everything is dated as of such and
Well,
such,
I think
and
at
what
the
is still in
bottom of
effect.
this,
So,
it's cut off here, but revised, there should be at the bottom of this document,
Yeah.
the date of the latest.
right.
I think, so here you can see that this one has a revision indication. But I think that maybe a good approach would be that the bullets are more up, either the bullets are more up to date, or we say, bring a mask and be prepared to wear it. And, based on current policy, it will be made clear. And if, so you should bring the mask and you should be prepared to wear it the whole time.
So how about if you guys draft it based on a bullet thing and whatever, and when we send out, I'll send out this week's plan for Thursday, I'll indicate that, we are finalizing an adjustment to our COVID protocol, but please be prepared for this Thursday to do blah, 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 blah. And then you gives you guys a couple of days to do whatever you need to do to structure something, pass it by the board, and then go from there. Does that work?
I think so.
Yes.
Oh, good.
We also need to come up with a mechanism for uploading.
Yeah, that's the Groupenizer guys thing.
Okay, I'm not that familiar with what's involved there. I haven't done anything like that.
Hey, can I make a quick suggestion on that? Have a path where folks can just bring their Vax card directly and show Elliot, and that's a check at a rehearsal check mark good enough.
Yeah, so what I was thinking was if we did the upload, then I would ask that Harry look at the card because he's got more expertise.
Well, we don't have to do that. Harry, if Harry's there, they can go by and say, boom, here it is. And he sees it and says, hey, check it off.
Yeah,
You know,
just make a super easy path to here's the card done.
Right.
Yeah.
The other thing about, about uploading it, right, is that then you get into all sorts of security issues, right? People may not want, we could get hacked, some people.
Yep.
I don't know how you do identity theft from a Vax card, but I also don't know that you can't, right? So it's just another can of worms.
So keep it simple and
Well,
So Harry and I, Harry, if you're there, I'll have you. And if you're not there, I'll use the clipboard. I'll have the
that's
list.
fine. I mean, with other organizations that have done this that I'm associated with, they have both where you can upload it. And if you're not comfortable with it, or if that's a challenge, you just bring in your card and show it. So either way works, or both.
Yeah, well, I would say if we accept just bringing the card, then we should just make that the thing people do.
Okay.
Maintain a checklist. And what I would say is, maybe it's not that rigorous an inspection. We're saying you're going to need to show the proof. And, I'm not going to know whether it's forged or not. And I'm not necessarily going to know how far apart the Covaxin doses in India are supposed to be, or, it's, you kind of look at the card and it looks okay. That's all I could do, right?
Mhm.
And
So
yeah.
I think we're
Yeah.
understanding this. Is there anything else we got to do on this? It seems to me like we're beating this horse to
we're
death.
beating it to death.
Let's move on. It's simple.
So the action item is to bulletize this, and Elliot, are you going to do that?
yeah,
Elliot and Harry, yeah.
Yeah.
And Harry to it, and then that's going to be uploaded to where?
Website, Nextdoor, Meetup, Facebook, and Groupanizer.
Okay. Thank you, guys. All right, so let's move ahead. The Groupanizer discussion, can we make that quick, or we want to do that offline?
yeah, I don't know how quick.
Pull up, Elliot, pull up that spreadsheet we were working on last night. And
Yeah.
let's just look at those questions that you and I had that I thought we could ask of the board today to see if we get anywhere. We all know, you and I both know, that a lot of our answers have to come from BHS, but there may be a couple that we can go over with the chorus. We actually, Mike C already answered one, right? The difference between chapter
Right.
status and chorus status.
Right.
How do we track whose dues are coming into the chapter? Well, I kind of asked Dave Morley. I'll ask Paul. Paul, do you get anything other than just an envelope with membership? Do you get any kind of a notification from BHS of who has paid dues?
No, but I can go into the website and see who's active.
Yeah, well, that's part of our problem. That we're not going to get into that. It's too deep. The BHS site is really hard to understand. Go ahead, Elliot. I tossed out the couple I had.
Yeah, so just to give you an idea of the parameters and things, I guess we need to come up with some categories that map into like the different privileges that affect your participation. Are, do you have, what's your music access? So we have guest book for guests, we have Groupanizer right now for alumni, for example. What is an alumni? We only have one, Bill Nelson. Is that a meaningful category or not? There are a number of things that need to be worked out, and I think it's going to take a bit of a discussion. You know, I've gone through some test cases of different people. You know, Randy Preston, he's still paying dues. Does that make him a member? Probably. Should he have access to Groupanizer and take up a license or to the music. These are all things that need to get worked out. I'm not sure we can do it in this meeting. I'm not sure that Larry and I can do it on our own. Maybe the best thing would be to put together a little task force with the right people on it. I don't know.
My belief is that course members should be able to see music, but chapter members, like, I mean, there's a lot of people who pay dues. Dick Sekis plays, he's alumnus. There's other people that have paid, so, but they don't need to see the music.
Okay, and we could always give them access to the guest book, for example, if they did want to track the music, but okay. Do people agree with that? That
If they're an active singer or a potential singer, yes. Anybody else, no.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, that's the answer.
okay.
And that's primarily driven by cost of music. Like to download the full music is probably about $50 to $200 of chapter expense. Like, you know, there's plateaus on licenses, but like that's the primary driver of that.
Okay, but that's an example of, because right now, you know, all of these people are members. And so clearly, if we're using member to decide whether or not you have access to Groupinizer, then Sean can't still be a member. Right, but does he still get emailings that go to members, or does he get the emailings on announce? There's a lot of stuff.
Oh, that's a good question. That's a different question.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff to work out here. So I just wanted the board to get a sense of what we're talking about. There's stale people that probably should be completely removed, like Dan Gallahan, you know, Brian Heatley, Jake. Should they be on now? Should they, you know, right now?
So I'm gonna say that I think that Elliot, you and Larry should make a recommendation. Okay, look through these. You have some things that you are assessing, which are questions that we have not discussed in the board. You may have already done this, and maybe you have some recommendations, and maybe where you are right now is there are 2 or 3 things you absolutely just don't know how you want to answer it. But if you already have a sense of how you think it should be approached, do it as a recommendation. There's no reason to get into like a lengthy he said, she said type of a thing in the conversation. But if there are unknowns, like we had the question earlier, what's the difference between a member and a chorus member, or a chapter member and a chorus member? That was like, oh yeah, okay, that's a really good thing to try to figure out. You know, if you got any of those, great. If not, then you guys make a recommendation for approval. That would be my suggestion.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. One other question I have is there any precedent, or is there a reason the alumni category is there and what it's meant to represent, if anyone has any insights? And if not, that's fine. Same thing with inactive member. But, you know, Larry and I could kind of try and figure out something that makes sense, but any knowledge that we have based on decisions made in the past would be helpful.
I don't know if that there was a decision made, but I'm going to toss out maybe an inactive member. Is that person still a part of BHS? An alumni could be someone who's sung with us, isn't singing with us anymore, but is a member of BHS.
I would give a slightly different definition of alumni. Any member that has ever been part of the Peninsulaires family stays in the Peninsulaires family, independent of BHS status, independent of what we're saying on Groupinizer. Like, I think we want to have an active alumni list, or you know, somehow to get stuff out to alumni once in a while.
That's actually a good point. Yeah.
For example, to come to our 75th anniversary performance in fall of 2023.
Well, that's a great idea. And so what I would say is that alumni should not have Groupanizer accounts unless they have some other role in there. But there should be an alumni mailing list. And that's an example of what I've done with guests.
Yeah.
Because the mailing list can be based on categories of contacts. We can have fans mailing list, alumni, guests, and then who should, yeah. So that's like another parameter we can play with.
And inactives could go to the alumni category.
Well, yeah, we need to think about that because inactive could be, like Jay, for example, might be an inactive, or
But not necessarily not coming back.
right.
Inactive may mean right now they're not able to participate because they're on a, temporary duty assignment to, some other part of the planet. And when they get back, they'll be able to come back to us. So that could be inactive, but not it doesn't necessarily mean. Okay, just
Right.
one last thing. You're talking about a list. I did this several years ago. I've got, and I may have given it to you already, Elliot, but I've got lists, membership lists from 12 years ago, lots and lots of names that might fit into the alumni category that are worth.
Yeah, probably a
look
lot
at.
of them are here. These are all like on.
It may be.
These are different tabs on the spreadsheet I get from BHS. But yeah, make that available. We can build up our alumni list. We can build up our fans list. I don't know where you're maintaining the marketing stuff, Larry, but this is a vehicle for maintaining that as well. And by the way, our events also have external visibility if we want to make them have it. So there are many ways that we could be using Groupanizer that we're not. But that's like an offline discussion. I think, Larry, you and I are going to have to spend some more time.
Elliot, I'm willing to volunteer to spend some time with you guys working through these test cases as well.
That would be great.
Yeah,
That would be,
I'm like to the point of like let's do it right after this call. Maybe we can get Dana to keep the session.
I'll
open
just
and
keep
we
you
can-
open.
We could call it.
I'll keep it
Yep.
open.
Cool.
All right, so are we done with this?
yeah.
Okay, so onward to the coaching planning. Who's going to run that?
Here's my suggestion. Let's have Dave K run this, but I start with a little bit of a framing session. Is that cool with everybody?
So Elliot, do you want to unshare?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Thank you.
Okay. Y'all can see this, right? All right, so this is only 7 slides. Just for some context. Dave reached out to Cindy Hansen. For folks who don't know, Cindy Hansen is a world-class, highly sought-after performance coach in the barbershop realm. Lots of accolades, lots of achievements going back 30 years at this point. And that triggered a conversation about coaching strategy or strategic music improvement. Curtis and I have talked about this probably 3 or 4 times, and I think we're very much aligned. Curtis, feel free to add in if you see something. But I wanted to frame kind of from a musical leadership perspective, or at least from Curtis and my perspective, what we're honing in on from a coaching strategy, and especially kind of a 2-year plan over for what we could choose to do as an organization from a musical improvement. I think this is what Curtis and I would like to do, but we wanted to lay out the thought. The first observation is, you've heard me say this a couple of times, this is sort of the North Star that Curtis and I are pursuing. Next year is our 75th anniversary. Very few organizations get to 75 years. Not only is it a giant milestone, but it's a big deal. We know that if everybody is on the risers, we're in spitting distance of 40 guys. I continue to maintain that if we get creative, if we pursue some very aggressive recruiting, words getting around that we're in, like 75 is not out of range for us. It is a stretch. It requires some diligent planning and diligent execution, but we're there. And then putting a stake in the ground around the number 75. In terms of a score, I put that down mostly just to frame kind of where we could choose to be. The other observation that I've been thinking a lot about over the last few months is we are the last bastion of barbershop in the South Bay. Lots of chapters are going by the wayside. Overall barbershop membership and involvement is going down, like at a society level. I ask us the question: if not us, who? If not now, when? So between those two kind of drive a lot of like our musical leadership priorities, a lot of our what we think it's most valuable for the organization to focus on to thrive and survive. Not to survive, to thrive. The way Curtis and I broke this down was to think about, like, let's lay out a 2-year plan in terms of if we're going to invest in these objectives in the 75 sing and 75 for 75. What do we want to focus on in terms of like 6-month blocks to really drive a significant, measurable and sustainable progress towards that goal? In the next 6 months, the focus is alignment on purpose, identity, and goals. We still have, like, I remember during my interview, we were having questions about how do you convince people that like improvement is important, right? We need to get past that. We need to, I think there are varying levels of definition of what that means, or like commitment to that, but really driving an alignment of like, here's who we are, here's what we're trying to accomplish. Consistent performance, singing, and music fundamentals. We're seeing glimmers of consistency. We are not consistent yet. So really driving in those fundamentals. Actually, I'm going to share this to you guys in case you want to fast forward a little bit. 1 second here. Recruiting and the relationship building. But I think our mental goal is that we want to have 40 guys on the risers at contest in May. I think that's achievable goal. I think that's a little bit of a stretch for us, but I think that's what we want to be pushing towards, and that's an all hands on deck effort to achieve that. Establishing the visual performance and responsibility model. Here's what's expected of a Peninsulaire singer. Here's how we do X. And then I wrote down like an example of like starting to get some visibility outside of just our own little corner of the world. For example, advertising in the Harmony Sweepstakes regional program, getting our name out in some way. 22H2, some sort of statement performance that we're here. I would love to see 50 guys in I know we all would love to see 50 guys, but I feel like with some organizational alignment and with some planning and execution, 50 is in the realm for 6-9 months now. Something that we have not talked about, and this is a pure board topic, but like a grant program. I am personally aware of at least 5 different chapters in the society that received $25,000 to $50,000 per year in grants. As a 75 year organization in the San Jose area, I believe it is possible for us to tap into some grants. And I've got some personal experience related to that. For year two, 23 H1, we're looking at leadership activities, leadership responsibilities. Again, asking the question, if not us, who? If not now, when? Continuing recruiting, relationship building, recruiting. Everything is about getting our members, growing our membership, growing our presence. I put down next year new uniforms. We may want to have that conversation before next year, based on our current situation. I do believe, like, if we're saying we want to, if we're defining these are the goals, I think our existing uniform is not satisfying those goals, just as a pure performer, as someone who's very interested in performance and visibility and identity. And then 23H2 is where the magic hits. I think we should be planning for a giant 75th anniversary party culminating in a show. Try to get all alumni we can possibly get. Let's aim for having 75 guys in a performance in H2. I don't care if it's one song. I don't care if they're on the risers every week. But like, let's push hard. Let's push toward a culminating event for 75th anniversary. Let me finish, and then I'll completely hand it over. Most importantly, what do the next 6 months look like? So this all starts with identity and purpose, right? If we do not have global organizational buy-in, we can throw a ton of money at coaching. We can throw a ton of energy at progress, at like goals, but there's always this kind of like background resistance of like, that's nice, but that's not who we are. So I think number one is driving an organizational commitment. This is primarily a board exercise. I see conveying the vision for the next 2 years and some sort of commitment poll. Somehow get buy-in from rank and file members that this is who we are, this is who we will be. A music team summit. I think one of the things, so I'm working under the premise that these are our organizational goals. 75 for 75 in 75, singing 75. If that's the goal, I think we've had an interview with Cindy Hansen, and we can talk chops of Cindy Hansen. Like, she is world class. I have taken classes from her. There's, independent of who, there's the what. The core thing is step one is up the level of the music team, up the level of the section leaders, visual coach, visual leaders, everything. Raise the team in terms of train the trainers. Second thing is, I put down in the February timeframe having Cindy come in to Cindy and Chris come in to help us really lock in our model, lock in our fundamentals as a deliberate teaching and platforming exercise, so that we're all on the same page. Curtis and I can reinforce rather than kind of drive and introduce. The message to the guys: we are investing in world-class coaches. If we aren't committed to it, let's not spend the money, because this is going to be for the levels we're talking about some money here. With a concrete focus, raising our game on 2 songs, Orange Colored in Georgia. March, work. Yes, we're going to have fun at rehearsals. Yes, we're going to see improvement. Yes, we're still going to have all the program elements of like ad hoc quartets, stuff like that. But we're driving to a great show in May, using some of these newly built models and fundamentals. April, we're doing something special. I don't know how many of you guys know who Deke Sharon is. He is the executive producer of the Sing Off and of the Pitch Perfect movie series. He is known as the godfather of modern contemporary a cappella. He is also a huge fan of barbershop. He once said that if you want to go learn how to sing a cappella, start with barbershop. He calls barbershop the ninjas of the a cappella world. He lives in San Francisco, and Dave Kay reached out to him and said, "Hey, what would you think about coming to coach us or do a visit of us?" For me personally, this would be a gold medal moment in my barbershop career to have Deke Sharon, an absolute titan of a cappella, come down and talk to us. Both from a motivational perspective, from a musical and a world-class feeling, but also just an immensely magical moment. That is possible. That is in range of us. And that's the sort of thing that can get the new guys or the young guys really excited, because they understand, they know what Pitch Perfect is. So that's another piece. And then demonstrate our progress. May, we have a performance. We have 2 performances in May. We have a show and a contest. Impactful, quality, increased performances. That's what I see the next 6 months looks like. And what I should say, Curtis and I'm still working on my terminology for we instead of I. Finally, second half of 22, coaching review of performances. We do the performances. We actually go through and we talk about what worked, what didn't, and how to make the next 6 months better. August, hey, guess what, music team, your bar's raising. What about having all of the music team, maybe even more members, attend Harmony U in some capacity to some level? September, coaching session. I mentioned grant writing. I think that's something we want to pursue. So we, to drive higher ability to put out a great product. October, I don't know what's going to happen with the district contest. They may still be talking about let's be on a boat. I don't know, but either way, let's do something big in October. And then the cabaret performance. That's my piece. That's the framing. Dave, Curtis, is there anything you want to add to that?
No, there's you've gotten everything that you and I have talked about in the last couple of weeks.
Okay, cool. Dave K, yeah, Dave K, handing it over to you for Q&A, or like facilitated, however is effective at this point.
Cool. So thank you, Mike. You can leave that up. We may be referring to it. I may ask you to go to a particular slide. So
absolutely.
First thing is I spoke directly to Cindy and I spoke directly to Deke, just one-on-one with them before I mentioned to had any kind of group conversation. And then Curtis and Mike and Larry and Dana and I had conversations with Cindy. We have not had a group conversation with Deke, but I'll mention in a minute where that's going. And I told them right out of the gate, the Peninsulaires, and I think this is an important thing for everybody to think about, because Mike has been framing the structure around what is a B plus or A level group look like, sound like, etc. Within our world, the barbershop world, we have these events that we do, right? The district and the division and the international events. And because of that, there is a framework around those that has these numerical assignments of what is considered a level of quality within the barbershop realm. The Peninsulaires, in my time with them for the last 17 years, are a performing organization. Our thrust has not been that we want to win a gold medal at international, but that we want to move an audience. Now, those two things can actually be in concert. The being able to move an audience, if your audience are the audience and the judges at a contest, you're going to score at that higher level. So these two things are not disconnected, okay? But the focal point for this organization, this is what I told Deke and Cindy, has been that we're a performing group. We want to be out there in the public and move the public, okay? And the framework, or the interactivity around contests dovetails into that, but that's not our established goal. So Deke has a book, and it's called The Heart of Vocal Harmony, Emotional Expression in Group Singing, which is a really amazing book. I will read one sentence from it, and it says that no one chooses the music they listen to at the end of a long day because of how technically perfect it is. They choose music because of how it makes them feel. If emotion is what draws people to music, then it should be central in the way that in which we make music. So we've talked a lot in the Peninsulaires about enhancing the delivery, the emotional delivery. This book is really cool. I told Mike and Curtis earlier today, I'm buying enough copies of this book for every member, current member of the organization, and I should have them on Sunday, and I'm going to pass it out at next Thursday's rehearsal. I strongly encourage everybody to read it because it's a foundational framework that will feed into what the intention is to bring Cindy into our activity, because she, there's this collaborative sort of thing. But anyway, I wanted to frame that a little bit. And so there are any questions about this before we get into how much this sort of a thing might cost?
Yeah, Dave, you mentioned that you've been in communication with Deke, and we probably want to have a Zoom with him. So the group has, so the group that's interested has a chance to meet him and chat.
Yeah,
with him
I'll tell you what, we are not interviewing him. If we do it, if he's willing to do it, like that's a huge win.
We should just do it then.
Just do it.
Okay.
I mean, his chops speak for themselves.
Okay.
He is available during, Mike has it listed for April, which is cool. And I can talk to him about that. I know that he had he was scheduled to be in Ireland for most of the month of January, but due to COVID scenarios, that has changed, and he is in the Bay Area now and is available to us if we wanted to bring him down sometime in the month of January. We could do that, but if we're going to look towards April, then that's
Treat
doesn't matter much
treat
to
this
me.
as a skeleton, Dave. This is just the starting point.
Okay, cool. All right, so that's like the framework. What we've got is the opportunity to enable us to enhance to a different level. Now, one other thing I want to comment on, because I heard this from both Deke and Cindy, and then it was presented to the group that listened to talk to Cindy. Historically, and I think Dave and Bert and Terry, you guys will resonate with this. Historically, when a piece of music has been brought to the chapter, it's been, we buy the chart, we buy whatever tracks are available, or we have tracks made, we release it to the chorus, and then we start working on it, okay? What both of these high-level coaches are saying is that that's a bit backwards, that the way to approach a new piece of music for the organization is to sit down with the music leadership, which would be the director, in our case, the director is plural, and then, you know, the key members of the music team, like the section leaders and a couple others, and really assess, what is this chart? What is this piece of music? What is the message in this piece of music? How do we want to, how should this message be communicated? Understanding the nuances of the lyrics, understanding the nuances of the structure of the chord progressions, right? So that then a learning track is made that delivers the intent of how this chapter is intending to deliver this piece of music. One of the things that Dick mentions in his book is that if you look at a song, there are hundreds and not thousands of variations of that song that are sung all over the world, okay? Almost any song. What does your chorus want to do with this particular piece of music? Knowing that when you introduce the music to the membership, having the track deliver the emotional content as part of it, you're going to learn from the get-go what we want to do, rather than saying, here's, now you learn the notes and the words from the track, and now let's overlay the interp on top of that. We actually integrate the interp into the creation of the learning track, because we've made those assessments and determinations about the chart before the track was created. Does that make sense to people?
It makes a lot of sense. Makes a
Yeah,
lot. It does sound
That
like.
would be wonderful.
And
How-
let's put some concrete example on that real quick. The learning track for Georgia. Some sweet day when blossoms fall. Right? That's a specific musical choice that can be baked in at instant one of the learning track. Some of this stuff is being done, by the way. It's just we're bringing it really to the forefront and really being visible. Curtis led a session with Chris H when he was doing the learning tracks for Orange Colored Sky,
Yeah.
where they were working through specific like kind of musical or emotional beats to accomplish specific objectives. So this is about really dialing that in on everything and putting it front and center in terms of our approach. Mike?
Michael?
Yeah, so it sounds great. How do we do it? Because is it going to result in a greater lag before we get the learning tracks, because somebody's got to make them as opposed to just, you know, buying them from somewhere?
Yeah, it amounts to adjusting the pipeline, the music introduction pipeline, to include longer lead times. And you know, there's also like kind of balancing costs. You know, do we use a Tim track default versus create a new one? Because you know, like so there's a lot of pieces in the how of it.
Having mentioned that, what Mike just said, if any of you have listened to tracks from Tim Warwick, even if you listen to the Polecat tracks that we have that Tim has done versus the original BHS learning tracks of the Polecats, the emotional delivery in Tim Warwick's presentation is head and shoulders above other stuff. Now, so we have possibilities. There may be something that fits the model through a Tim or a what's his name, Ketzmiller, that fit the model. But if not, we have access to Chris Hebert to be able to create a track for us that fills that void. So part of the answer to your question, Michael, is that we're going to need to make the determination and then backward of what music and then backward schedule so that we can get those foundations in place and then accelerate the creation of the track or the acquisition of the track, so that we don't have to wait 6 months to release something. But we should have those initial conversations about the chart so that the organization, the leadership, the music leadership of the organization understands how we want to present this song to our audience. Any other questions?
I question for Mike C. and Curtis. It feels to me like we've sort of done some of this with Orange Colored Sky and Georgia,
Mhm.
right?
Yes.
Chris recorded these tracks of Orange Colored based on your input. So, in my opinion, that's a good thing. We're kind of already starting to do this.
Yes.
Our delivery may have been not quite as Cindy calls for it, but we are definitely heading in that direction. Am I correct in assuming that the tracks for both Orange Colored and Georgia are real close to how we want to?
Orange
And I
Colored
think,
for sure. Georgia,
yeah,
a little bit less so.
Georgia, and this is going to be there's going to be some directing craft as
Okay,
well
always.
in terms of, in terms of this, because I like my historical pattern would be like learn the words and then discover the interp over time. Whereas this is more like we got to figure out the interp over time. So we may need a demo quartet that we can play with the interp well before so that we can feed that into the learning tracks, right? So there's sorts of pieces. But Larry, your observation is very keen. Like a lot of the fundamentals, like I said, I'm a student of Cindy Hansen's, right? A lot of the fundamentals are like her method, her teaching. Like I incorporate a lot of that in terms of my thinking. Now, whether I've explained that to the group or not, like the pieces have become there. So these should be incremental improvements or adjustments or changes, not like revolutionary. Oh God, we're doing something completely different.
And so with the frame, with that in mind, the objective here is not to just have certain people, Mike, Curtis, me, 2 or 3, 4 or 5 others, do stuff and say, okay, here you go. We are looking at wanting to get like full buy-in from every member of the chorus into the philosophy that underpins these things. Hence the acquisition of the book that I'm going to get and pass out to people. Hence the desire to have to bring Cindy in via Zoom to talk to the group, ahead of time at a rehearsal. So that we can lay the foundation and get the men to like go, oh, yeah, I get it. Now, many of the people sitting here in this board meeting, I've been seeing heads go, yeah. But we can't say that's 100% accurate. And the thing that is true is that one voice, one face in the crowd can shift the perception of the audience as to the quality of the delivery of whatever it is that we're delivering. Terry, you have your hand up.
Yeah, in the thing that Mike presented for next year, he recommended that the music team members go to Harmony University. I recommend that all people in the chorus try to go to Harmony University for several reasons. One of them is you find out what really high quality singing is like, and you get to participate in it. And then also you learn a lot of stuff, and you get charged up to want to do better. And one of the things we're talking about now is how do we charge up the members to want to improve. And I think going to Harmony University is a good way to get them charged up to want to improve.
Cool.
Yeah, and I know a lot of folks have never been there. Harmony U actually has a chorus coaching pod where it's a 1-week immersive experience for a chorus shows up and performs. That's becoming the mechanism by which a lot of courses flip out of a high B+ into an A level thing. Vocal did that a few years ago. There's a different level of commitment and investment. There's also the possibility of like, if we're going to do that, there's the possibility of like doing it local, like doing a retreat or something like that. But yes, absolutely, Terry.
Yeah, I was recommending that individuals go. I think the core is going to be great, but I think that may be a stretch.
It is very much a heavy investment, heavy commitment.
Okay,
It was probably, I think, because I had sung with Vocal, and I came in to Vocal, I think about 1.5 to 2 years after they initially started. I think it was about year 5 or 6 that they focused on getting the whole chorus to there for that. Mike and my discussion was, right now the pandemic has actually created a uniquely opportunistic moment in that Harmony U, which used to be pretty much just physically in at the other site. You now have virtual opportunity, and we can get really focused, make sure we do focus to get the music leadership to Harmony U, even virtually at this point. And but I agree with you, Terry, 100% from a couple of years ago when I went to Harmony U, that it is just incredible experience, and every member would be, it would really be incredible for them to be a part of that.
okay, so Mike, could you give me the opportunity to share screen? I want to give you guys a sense as to what Cindy sent in the way of what her thoughts on. Let's see.
And while David's setting this up, I want to re-emphasize. I mean, we're talking like world class here. I can list out the bona fides of any of our coaches, but these are luminaries in the world. Like for me personally, I don't want to waste their time if we're not 100% bought into this. We have great resources at our disposal. We have great people at our disposal. But it starts from within, and really recognizing that like we're talking the best in the world at what we're doing, at what we do.
Cool.
If you want to see Deke Sharon's, besides you can see some of his things that he produces, his group's called the House Jacks. If you want to listen to the House Jacks, that's who we're talking about.
You guys some of you might have seen the year of the sing off that group in Oakland, Vocal Rush or whatever they were. They were at some high school in San Francisco, in Oakland, where they came in like second or first or something like that. We had that group come and perform at a Peninsulaires event, which was interesting because it was a different configuration of the members, but it was really cool. It was really cool. Okay, so let me share my screen, and I have from Cindy some information. I hope, guys, you can see this. So one of the things is she says if she's going to be able to collaborate with us via Zoom, which can be done, and you can get a lot out of that. It's like $100 per hour. This is her like basic pricing information. This, what she calls behind the scenes work, working us on if we're going to do something within the context of a show, kind of like we did with our October show. Is there a visual package, blah, 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 blah. She can work with us on that. We've actually, in the past, have done fairly well with that on our own. So that may or may not be relevant. Each project, she'll give a particular project cost, but if we're going to bring her out for coaching and live session, she's going to need, she lives in Michigan, so she would have to fly her out, put her up, cover her expenses and that sort of thing. So it gets to be a little bit more expensive if we're going to bring her out, and we need to strategically do that. I think that it makes sense for us to do some stuff virtual initially, but it may be seriously in our best interest at some point to bring her out in person and do that in conjunction with some things for with Chris Aber as well. So now Deke, he lives in San Francisco. He doesn't require, you know, transportation or airfare or whatever. He normally charges something like $1,200 or $1,500, you know, a night to do this sort of thing he's going to do. He said he would come down and visit us. It's probably going to cost us like for an evening with Deke around $500, maybe 550 or so, 6 at the max. But he's willing to do that because we're close and we're interested, and he's a big fan of barbershop. So that's what I can tell you.
I can add that I've never done anything with Deke, but I've done things with Cindy Hansen, and I would recommend that you drink a quart of coffee or so before you get in there, because you'll never keep up with her otherwise. She's got so much energy.
She is a high energy lady. So anyway, that's the scenario. So this has an impact, Dave Morley, on the budget plan for 2022, because I'm going to stop sharing, because when I sent you the information I sent you, I had not yet had any of these conversations with either Cindy or Deke. And so now what we're looking at is probably an additional $3,000 worth of activity and coaching enhancement over the course of the year, if we're going to do this in this way. And so we need to talk about that.
Okay, Dave. Mike, thank you. So is that a budget discussion, or more importantly, do we want to embrace either or both of these coaches?
Yeah.
What do we need to do today?
We need to talk about this. I mean, there were some, when I explained the intent of the concept, there were like violent nodding of approval by a lot of people, but have to realize there's dollars associated with achieving that objective. So the question for the board is the board willing to invest the dollars necessary? And then the music team certainly has expressed a willingness to invest the time, but is the board willing to invest the dollars necessary to achieve an objective as defined in what Mike and I have presented? Paul?
That's a proposal. Go ahead, Paul.
Oh, this is a lot to take in. Seems like we've just taken on Curtis and we've doubled our expense for our.
Not true. We have not doubled our expense. We've split our expense.
Okay, split. Well, in any case, we've doubled our input. We've got a lot going on, and with Curtis, we have Curtis who will be who's amazing. So I don't know, for me, you know, if you wanted to have Sharon come down on Zoom for a couple of times or something, that we had, I know we've had that before, had people come in, but it seems like we're on a good trajectory. I don't know. That's just my opinion.
Dave Morley.
With all due respect to Curtis and to Mike, neither one of them is a Cindy. And I say we should go for it. I would like to be coached by Cindy once or twice. I've never seen her. I've seen her, the results of her in a lot of international competitions, and the courses that are coached by her are spectacular.
Mhm.
Go to Harmony University. She usually teaches.
And I would like to do that.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I'm just wondering, how do we, I mean, how do we make sure we have a date when everybody can come? I guess that's impossible, right? That there's always going to be people who can't come, but you know, I feel like, you know, if we're going to do this thing, spend a lot of money, try and get this, how are we going to get everybody to come?
Yeah, let me frame that a different way. Like, if we're doing this, like, it's a figure out how to get there sort of way. It's not the, oh, we're gonna work around, like, oh, we don't have 5 people here and 5 people there. It's like, you know, like that's what I mean about organizational alignment and commitment. That we stick a stake in the ground 2 months from now and say, this is happening. And like, except for illness and death, like you're getting there. Like if there's, you know, like it's to that, like, that's what I mean about organizational commitment. It's not negotiating how good are we going to be. It's, we want to be this good. This is what we're doing to do it.
There is the additional scenario for at least the first scenario, opportunity for her to join us virtually. And we've talked about this, Mike already talked about this earlier in this meeting, that we could reinstitute some Zoom activities so that members who can't be there or who are uncomfortable can participate in our weekly rehearsals. So at least for part of this potential, if someone is not physically able to attend, we can maybe, you know, have them be part of the Zoom session as well. Larry?
It's a Zoom, another Zoom comment. I think we'd have to have a water spray bottle when we're doing Zoom with Cindy to cool her off periodically, because she is hot and she go, like Terry said. With the discussion regarding her fees and such, I mean, I think we could get so much from her with the initial Zoom rehearsal with her, provided we have that buy-in and we lay out plenty of time for everybody to understand it. Everybody needs to be there for this because this is a big deal, right? But there are still those that may not be able to attend. Well, between now and then, we just make sure that we start using Zoom at every rehearsal.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're really good at it. Then it's easy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. She can see and hear us. We can see and hear her. Those who can't attend can participate. So that's that technology that Mike and I will take offline and get it squared away.
Cool. All right. So is there any other thoughts or comments from anybody?
Well, I think we need to have a proposal to move ahead with some amount of coaching from Cindy. And to have, yeah.
Okay. So who's going to make that motion? I'm not going to make that motion because I'm in the middle of this. This is like, I'm looking for it to come from somebody that's not me.
I move that we bring in Cindy for Zoom coaching, and that we bring in Deke at a later time for a personal coaching session.
With
For this
what
quarter.
are the parameters then for not to exceed number, or do we want to have that be developed offline?
I think we need to allocate for the year, for the 2022. I would suggest a $3,000 budget for the year for these people. That would include any airfare, you know, expenses if we're going to bring somebody in. You know, we may be able to do this without spending more than $1,000, but I think we need to be prepared to spend at least $3,000.
But that really isn't that much more than we already have. We have right now 1,600 So
Right.
it's just another 1,400 and I'm all for that.
Okay.
All right, so that's the proposal.
But there's no date attached to this, right? This is just sometime in the future.
Dates can be, but I have to get back with Cindy and or Deke with their availability so that we can nail down a date. So I can't say this is, I think we need to maybe determine how rapidly we as a chorus could assimilate this thing or set this all up. Certainly not by this coming Thursday. The following Thursday, I don't know, maybe, probably the last Thursday of July or the first Thursday of February, or excuse me, last Thursday of January and first Thursday of February are realistic.
It'll be 2022 though, right?
This year, yeah, 2022.
Yeah, this is a 1-year proposal at this point.
Okay, so Larry, do you want to summarize what you just said and including the budget?
Oh my goodness. I propose that we increase our coaching budget to $3,000 and that we engage with Cindy for virtual coaching and that we engage with Deke for an in-person visit.
Second.
Any discussion?
One question about that. Chris Aber in
Oh yeah.
in H2
Oh
in H1.
yeah.
Here's a model I want to share with you guys. That could have huge potential. If Chris and Cindy are willing to work with us on like where Chris is working the technical singing and Cindy is working the performance, possibly at the same time. That's there's obviously money implications of that, but
Yeah.
that's a model that's making the rounds among our very highest performers.
Something like that, Mike, probably wouldn't work so well on a Thursday night. It would be
That might be more like a Saturday day
a
or
Saturday
something like
gig. And that's also going to increase because Saturdays we typically will do 6 to 8 hours.
Right.
So that's going to increase the cost of both those coaches. Whether
Well,
Chris
as
is
I
with
mentioned,
us and Cindy's on Zoom. I mean,
Cindy's willing to do a Saturday session, and her thing was like $800 for the day plus expenses. I mean, like I said, if we allocate $3,000, we're going to be able to accomplish a lot over the course of the year. It's going to likely be able to involve one bringing her physically here for a day, right? But not multiple times, unless what we find out is that we do manage to get a grant, or we do have a performance that's so successful that instead of making a couple $1,000s, we profit $5,000 out of that thing we do in the spring. You never know. There would be some possibilities for enhancements or adjustments as we go along.
Right.
But I think with a budget of $3,000 for the year for coaching, that would involve Chris, that would involve Cindy virtually, and one physical visit, and getting deep down here at one time to speak to the group. I think that's reasonable over the course of the year.
And then we can always increase that if we need to, by
Right.
voting it, the board making that decision.
Yeah. I have ideas on how to mitigate some of those costs, particularly by like amortizing those by additional like quartet coaching opportunities.
Right.
So,
right.
but those are like tactical details on how to cost
Sure.
optimize.
Okay, so what we've had a change, the proposal is to have a $3,000 budget to engage coaches. We don't have to be specific about the exact details and number of hours.
Mm-hmm.
Just for coaches, just generic coaches, not say who.
I think you need to leave that up to me.
Yeah, let's leave the coach definition up to Dave.
We could say high caliber coaches.
But that's obvious.
No, you don't want you don't want the homeless guy that's living in the tent just outside my
No, I
apartment
have one
here.
of those. I have
Only
one
if
of
you
those.
wear shorts.
Hey, real quick, before we vote on this, before you vote on this, let's be, if there's internal resistance or like not full body commitment from the board, that like, that's a, it's very important for us to be aligned on this. We're talking about some really powerful, really high profile people. Like here's what I mean by real commitment. Like if we're doing this, like I would reach out to every quartet that's a chapter quartet. Like we have at least 3 or 4 quartets that don't have members in Peninsulaires right now. I would reach out to them and say like, hey, we want you to come with us on this journey. And like use this as part of a recruiting process, part of a marketing process. Like we're talking a lot of money. Because this does not include music for this year. This does not include like director fees, things like that. This is just coaching. So like be thinking about like, okay, if we're saying, yes, let's do this, let's have 100%, let's have full body commitment to this. And we're thinking of how can we use these to increase relationship, increase recruiting.
And we've also, with the board all on board, we've also got to get our membership all on board.
Right.
If we're going to spend this kind of money, we got to make sure that we've got members that want to play the same game.
Yeah.
Larry, with that thought in mind, I'm going to ask Bert and Terry for their thoughts on what we've just talked about.
Well, I'll say that I will show up if Cindy Hansen's doing a coaching session. I will definitely show up. I will drag my emaciated body there if I have to. I'll get there. And
That was yesterday,
Pete
Terry.
Sharon, as I said, I haven't personally experienced him, but I would certainly like to.
Thank you.
Bert?
I put most of my comments in the chat. All coaching, from my view, has got to be in person. To talk about coaching on any medium like Zoom is just, I think, bizarre. You got to have a coach that's got to have an ear, that's got to be able to hear you in situ. So to talk about coaching before we can be in person, I think doesn't work at all for me. Number 2, the 70, well, I guess this is the good of the chapter. I have some comments about the goals that Mike laid out. Some of them I put in chat and some of them I haven't. But I think we can do local coaches and be good. And I don't think we bring in these high-priced coaches until we're singing a solid B. I think we can work our way up to a solid B with what we have here. I mean, Mike and Curtis are banging on us really well, and they're moving us up. I don't want to see a high-priced coach in here until we're actually ready to achieve the next level. And we got to be a solid B for my case. I rest until you hear more from me.
Thank you, Bert.
Let me talk about that just a moment. I try not to talk about scores, but like my mental goal is hitting 70 at division. I would say right now we're at 63 to 65. I think, could we get to 70 with just Chris? I think yes. But like, I think what you're proposing, Bert, is whether we start in January or in June. Like, I think that's the difference in Bert's, like, when do we approach this?
COVID has a lot to do with it. Like I say, in-person coaching, there's no sense coaching until you get them in person. And coaching, as much as we want to do your 2-year and 3-year thing, COVID is going to have a lot to do with this thing.
Yeah, if you guys said like there's too much risk right now and we're going to revisit this in 6 months, like that's a there's a little bit of the course ain't getting younger, right? But like some of the new guys are bringing the average age down, but like it is a reasonable question of like, is now the appropriate time to do it?
Right.
Elliot,
Yeah, like a couple of considerations. I think one thing by delaying it a bit or giving a bit more time, okay, there's the COVID factor. There's also the factor of if we want people to commit to this, you know, people plan vacations in advance. We have a better shot of getting commitments. People put in their calendars, they work their vacations around it. So I think it makes sense to, provide a bit of lead time at least.
So just as a point of information relative to the first interaction, the first Zoom-based interaction with Cindy, this is that, and in conjunction with this book that I plan on handing out to people on Thursday, is a foundation structure. Let's pour the concrete foundational part of the structure. We're building a house. We got to have the foundation down before you start to build the walls, the ceilings, the levels, the roof. And so that is more of a come to Jesus kind of thing. We need to not just have the members of the board behind this philosophy. The members of the chorus in general, to a man, need to be behind it, or it won't have the impact that we are planning on spending money to achieve. And so the getting her on a Zoom session that discusses her level up program, which is what she calls her program, level up. Let's get up to the next level. And possibly getting deep down here to provide that level of vision that comes from outside. One of the challenges that I've seen in every organization that I've ever worked with is that the folks inside the organization who are presenting perspectives on things may be exactly what you're hearing from a consultant or coach that comes from outside, but the internal person is never listened to. The external person seems to have more gravitas because they are from outside. And so getting these people to start this ball rolling through an initial visit, even if it's a virtual visit, I think gets us moving in that direction and allows us then to schedule things in a more in-person structure, because like we've already talked about with the COVID protocols, it's an evolving scenario. And 3 weeks from now, it may be vastly different than it is today.
I like that idea, Dave. An introductory meeting and then figure out the next steps.
Got a question.
Barry.
For when we get Cindy to do a virtual session, are we allowed to record that and play it back? If
I will get her. I'll get her permission.
Yeah, because I could see that she would say something, and then we would, 2 weeks from now, say, "Remember when Cindy said this?" and get her to explain it, and that would carry more weight than just saying, "Remember when it happened 2 weeks ago."
Right.
And also, if that's happening soon, if people need to miss it. I know I have a vacation planned in February. I may have to cancel it for COVID, but right now, mid-February, I'm out of here for a week.
Okay, cool.
And her initial visit with us would probably be focused a lot on her level up program as presented in the meeting we had with her. So there may not be a whole lot of coaching going on, but just hearing about the level up, hearing about her program.
It'll be the framing and structure of that process.
Absolutely.
Yeah, let's talk expectations about like that specific event. Either you're there in person, watching it on Zoom, or watching it offline. Like that's the first. That's like my mental model. Like we are like I posted like a February sort of time frame, primarily to get us enough time to get Orange Color Sky into a coachable state. But if it's a different thing, then like an external or offline viewing is okay as well.
Right. Okay, cool.
So the proposal, as we had it, was just to define the budget and then the coaching details to be left to Dave.
And I think that was seconded, and then we've been in the discussion phase.
Discussion. So we're still good with that proposal?
Yes.
Okay, so I guess we're at the point of voting. All in favor, raise your hand. Any opposed? Okay, that's passed. Phew, wow, what a journey.
Thank you, man.
This is exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes we've got to take just a bit longer, but that's okay. It's for the good of the court.
Well, I don't want to avoid the good of the chapter section though, so we'll jump into that. So John Wanless.
Yeah, actually, I'm kind of excited about Valentine's coming up. I think that's going to be really fun. And some quartet opportunities that have surfaced. So good, it's good barbershop. So that's about it.
Thank you. Paul.
Well, I'm glad to hear about the change in the way we are going to practice, in a circle, masked and everything. And that sounds like a good move. So anyway.
Thank you, Paul. Mike Oliver.
So I just wanted to share this. I ordered this pitch instrument. It came yesterday. I thought I should have one. And I was playing around with it, and I was below the sea, and I found out I was floating a C5, and it sounded good. And I want to know how I can actually do that reliably. Maybe I don't know. I really would love to be able to explore the upper end of my register and do it reliably. And I'm
practice, man, practice.
That's it.
Drink lots of water.
So I don't know if that's a typical good of the order thing, but I just wanted to share that.
Oh, that's
Very
fine.
cool.
Thanks, Mike. Harry.
Yeah, well, I've already said, I think that I'm really impressed how adaptable we are. It's very difficult right now with the COVID situation, but we just keep going forward and roll with the punches.
Thanks, Harry. Elliot.
Yeah, a combination of what Harry just said and just the feeling that we're in so many different ways getting better and better. Like, just thinking about different aspects, the performance, bring the coaching, growing the chorus, a lot of exciting things happening. So it's good.
Thanks, Elliot. Mike C.
Yeah, I want to thank you guys for starting on this journey of like what's a new level, what's a world-class regional organization look like. It's there's a little bit of you don't know what you're in for, but it's going to be a fantastic journey. It's going to be an exciting journey. I've said it a couple times. I'll be the dead horse here. Membership alignment is our number one thing. You guys as a board have a lot of responsibility to make sure everybody's being fed and coming along. I wanted to call out or thank Bert in particular. I thought Bert's comments in the chat, if you haven't seen them yet, questions in the chat about really what this means for expectations and membership and involvement and stuff like that. This is part of that. So Bert, your questions were very 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 representative, very valuable. Thank you for that. You guys have two directors out front who are full body to, if you want to do this, we are right there with you. I just bought a book called Habits of a Successful Choir Director, which is a choral methods college textbook. Like I'm going to be up in my game right next to you guys. Thank you guys for partaking on the journey. I am so excited about 22.
Thank you, Mike. Bert.
I'm sorry I didn't get here early, but I've got a couple of comments. Number one, the 75 to the fourth power that Mike is talking about. The timeline is really aggressive on the whole thing, especially the membership. We don't have any Jerry Orloffs that can bring in members at the 30 at a whack. I was in Jerry's class of 30 back in the day. So trying to get to 75 members in the time frame, I don't think is possible. I do believe we can move up to that eventually, sort of thing. The other thing I worry about is the vaccination proof at the chorus, the Vax cards. Unless we record who brings what when, so we know from week to week who's done what, I think you got to be more specific on what you mean by people coming to chorus and what they have to prove every week or have demonstrated some weeks back. So go for it, guys. I really like the board. You guys are really working hard, and I appreciate that. And I do like the dual directors, by the way. If I can learn words and notes and then just watch you guys, I'm a happy camper, because you will teach me on the fly how to change particular phrases and whatever. And if I don't do it right, you'll stop us and make me do it right.
That's great.
Thank you.
Bert. Thank you. Dave Cokerhook.
So I was really glad to have the 2 weeks off in the last part of December. I mean, 2021 was one heck of a year from the Peninsulaires perspective, and there was a lot that went on that behind the scenes that people don't have any perspective of. So having those 2 weeks off was really good. I was disappointed that I wasn't able to be there this past Thursday for what amount to medical reasons, but that seems to be resolving, and I think that was probably a good thing for me as well, because now I'm ready to start getting back in the saddle. So that's my good of the chapter. It was nice to have a break, and I'm ready to get back in and start moving us forward. So that's it.
Thank you, Dave. Curtis.
Hi, guys. I've just been as quiet, relatively quiet today. I think that I'm really happy to hear is the chapter's attention to what's going on with the pandemic right now. I didn't really realize that I was going to become a personal example of having one test say that I was clear, and then 5 days later be stuck at home for a week because the second test came in right after that. I'm really glad to hear there's some attention to detail on how both we're going to rehearse and how we're going to manage as an organization moving forward on that. I am so super excited about the energy that the board is bringing forward to the chapter, and the musical improvement and the experience for every person on the risers or in the circles as we may be going forward for rehearsal for a bit.
Thank you, Curtis. Terry.
Okay, I want to push for people from the chapter going to Harmony University. And now I know I've done that almost every year except the last couple of years when it hasn't happened in person. And I agree with Bert that in person is so much better than via Zoom. But anyway, so I'm trying to figure out how I can personally push for that. I would encourage anybody who has ever been to Harmony University, and I assume that if you've been there, you have a positive experience, to sort of talk it up among our chapter members.
Thank you, Terry. Larry.
I like the way you say that. Yeah, leaps and bounds, and we just continue. This group right here just continues to work together, and today was a good example of we take the time. If we're not rushing ourselves too much, we take the time to talk it through. and come up with good plans for our membership. And just quickly, I missed you, Curtis, on Thursday night. I'm glad you're on the mend. But hey, Mike C., you were on fire Thursday night. We did so much work, and it was so much fun. And there, oh man, it was awesome.
You tell me we're coaching in front of Cindy Hansen in 2 months, all of a sudden the fire gets in my belly. So
Yeah.
watch
I
out,
mean,
boys.
well, you know, you did the bit you did with Heart of My Heart. Let's look at 3-4 different scenarios, and each one of them. Okay, I listen to the video when I'm editing. Each one of them looked and sounded different, and so when I say you were on fire, that's what I'm talking about. I don't necessarily like having to learn notes and words at rehearsal, but Thursday night, since we really couldn't do sectionals, your work with us on Sit Down, You're Rocking the Boat, amazing. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Larry, cheerleader. Love it. Dave Morley.
I've had a goal for a long time to sing in the 70s, and I'm sure glad to hear that that's our current goal. So let's get there.
Thanks, Dave. And for me, as usual, I'm so impressed with you guys on my board. You work hard, you encourage, you even laugh, and I'm just so excited about what's been presented today. Looking forward. Thank you, Dave, and thank you, Mike C., for leading that exercise. And I do believe that we need to work on our membership to really get total buy-in, and we're going to have a great year. So thank you, guys. And with that, I'm going to stop recording, but I'm going to leave the Zoom on. I think, Mike, you wanted to keep going?
Yeah, I'd suggest let's break into a small focus session on some of Elliot's and Larry's scenarios.